The basics of grooming an English setter. Now if you shop through any of the links in the video description below, I will get a commission at no extra cost to you, and by subscribing to the channel both will help, thank you. So what I will cover is trimming the hocks from hock to heel, trimming the feet, trimming the hair in between the toes, the tail, how to create that fan shape on the tail. We've got the pasterns, which I'll cut the hair out of. The ears, we'll be working in the UK where the English setters tend to have their ears shorter. The neck, I'll be clipping the neck and using thinning scissors. This is not the same dog, but I'll go through the feathers, what not to do and what I will actually do with the feathers. And what we've got is back to Theo, who is nearly 6 years old now. He's a nice example of the breed. What you're aiming for, trimming an English setter in the UK. Now if you go on my dog's website, Red Iris Setters, within the menu click Red Iris Setters, there's lots and lots of different photos of the dogs, and there's even a section within the menu, photos. You may have a different colour English setter or a dog with a thicker coat. Take a look, you might see one of the photos and think, actually I'm going to try and work towards that with what you can take from the video, because Theo's just one example of an English setter. Now what I will do to start with is give the dog a good brush. I'll go over the dog with my hands and check for any mats. The best brush for an English setter really is a pin brush for everyday use, but if you've got knots or a really thick coat you're wanting to drag out coat with, then a slicker brush. It's cheap enough and really handy for knots. Also use a Mars dematting rake. That's really handy if you do have some knots, and I always have to have a steel comb. The links to all those tools are in the video description below. And if the dog has too many mats or the mats are too thick, I will use either the thinning scissors or the clippers to remove the mats. So the hocks, I'll use the dog clippers, link below to the clippers I use, and a 7FC. And all you're going to do is clip from the hock to heel. You can use thinning scissors to do this. I'll clip from the top of the hock to the foot, and I'll go back up, which will make it shorter. It's a client's dog, so the shorter and sharper it is, the better, and the longer it will last for them. That's the hock. Then I'll move on to the feet or the foot, and I'm going to use thinning scissors with one straight edge and some straight scissors, and I'll just lift up the hair between the toes and cut the hair off, keeping the scissors flat on the toes. Comb through with a steel comb to check if there's any mats. So if you lift up the hair, cut it off with your thinning scissors. That's a safe way to start if you've never trimmed your dog's feet before as well. Just by doing that, you will change the way the feet look. Comb through. Just be careful if you do have mats between the toes, because there is webbing there. So starting out, just be careful. I'll always trim the nails once I've done that bit before I trim around the foot with the straight scissors, because that's almost going to set the shape of the foot, the nails. But don't worry if your dog's nails are long. Don't take a big chunk off just to try and make the foot look right. You can take a tiny bit, probably every 5 days, every week if it's your own dog, and it will push the quick back within the nail, which is the blood vein, so you can get those feet to look right. So don't take a big chunk off, because it will bleed. So you'll need some clip stop to stop it bleeding. And then with your straight scissors, after you've trimmed around the foot, you can trim underneath the foot, keeping the scissors quite flat. But small scissors are better if you've not trimmed feet before. Onto the tail. So brush the tail through, comb the tail, and then you're going to gather the tail and cut it at an angle. The end, I would leave about 1/2 inch, 2 centimeters at the end of the tail, and then any stray hairs trim down. Let's do that again. slower. So we're going to brush the tail, comb the tail, make sure there's no mats in the tail, gather the hair, and as you can feel the end of the tail, give it 1/2 inch, then cut the hair at the end of the tail, and then any stray hairs, aiming your scissors down into like the fan shape, trim those off, and that's the tail. I'll trim the pasterns out, which is where the arrow is pointing. You can do that with thinning scissors. You can do that, I do that with the dog clippers. The pastern is from the bottom of the foot up to the stopper pad, and you just want to watch the dew claws as well, which is like the dog's thumb. I'm going to take the hair off the ears. We're in the UK show English setters have their ears short, which I will do with a 9 clipper blade or a 10. You can use thinning scissors. I could do a video on how to trim the ears with thinning scissors if you like, but I'll use the clippers and I'll keep the blade flat. Almost put the ear on your hand and keep the blade flat to the ear. Don't jab in, and just clip down, don't clip up. And then I'll use the thinning scissors to trim the hair under the ear. Now just be aware, inside the ear there's almost like a flap of skin where the arrow is pointing. So when you're trimming around the edge of the ear with the thinning scissors, just be careful. Well, that's more important if the ear is matted inside. It's quite common with spaniels that all that hair is matted. So if you go backwards with the clippers, you can imagine you could have a bit of a disaster there. So just be aware that's there when you are trimming around the edge of the ear. And trim under the ear with the thinning scissors. Just take your time with it. Use a comb. When it comes to trimming around the edge of the ear with the thinning scissors, you're going to trim down the ear. I'm holding the ear up, but I'm actually trimming down the ear. Don't trim up the ear. You might have to watch that little bit again to understand that, but I'm trimming down the ear. And on the front of the ear, you want to leave that little bit of fringe. So on that front side, probably cut the edge of the ear halfway down, and you'll leave the fringe at the front. And that gives a bit of a more natural look using the thinning scissors. And then where the head joins the ear, you'll get a big chunk of hair that can just be blended in with the thinning scissors. And you can push the ear up to level it out to be able to cut that. So then as you look at the dog's head, bring the ear down, you're starting to get the shape, or be able to see the shape of the head. An extra little bit there, cut that out. You'll see, rather than the dog looking like it's got a flat skull, which he hasn't anyway, you're cutting the shape of the head out. And then the neck, 7F, clip down from the throat down to the chest bone, breastbone. Ideally just one cut from the throat down to the chest. I will lift up the ear and clip the sides as well, which you can do with thinning scissors once I've finished brushing the dog and seeing what's left. So I'll hold the ear out of the way and clip all of that, which you can scissor all that to blend it all in, but I will go over that with thinning scissors as well. I've only got the dog in that position so you can see what I'm actually doing. But the end result ideally wants to look quite clean. I've only done one side, I've not clipped the other side yet. And this is clipping the dog after the bath. I'll just run the clippers over it, under the ear, but then I'm skimming, I'm not pressing on with the 7F. And then what I will do is get the thinning scissors again and blend the hair what's not been clipped with the hair what has been clipped under the ear. The idea is it's going to look quite natural. Sharp, but natural. That's the idea. So comb, cut with the thinning scissors, comb, cut with the thinning scissors. If it's your own dog and you were trimming that dog every week, i.e. for a show, it will look really natural. But if a dog comes in really hairy and then it's clipped, it's going to take some blending in, basically. It depends on the dog. Every dog is different. But the idea is to create quite a clean, elegant neck. And the thinning scissors will give a natural finish. And finally, the feathers. Ideally, you don't really cut the feathers. This dog has previously been to a different groomer, it's a different dog, who's cut the feathers straight across like a spaniel. And if a dog has got a really thick, heavy coat, what you can do is use your double-sided thinning scissors to thin out the coat rather than cut the coat shorter. Unless the owner wants the feathers short, you can thin them out, which will make it easier for brushing and keeping on top of the dog, but you can take a lot of weight out of the dog by using the thinning scissors. If you haven't got the double-sided thinners, then just use the normal thinning scissors. And you can take any stray hairs what hang over the hock with the thinning scissors, and then underneath you can do the same again. Put your thinning scissors in and thin out the coat rather than cutting length off. There's obviously been a misunderstanding there. The dog has got a really thick coat. And put your scissors in, cut, comb, brush, and keep going till it feels a lot thinner and it'll be easier for the owner to manage. That's the basics of grooming an English setter, really. Now, links to all the tools I've used in the video will be in the video description below. So will the dog grooming website and my dog's website if you want to have a look at that too. Okay.